everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of An American in Thailand, airing every Friday. And we broadcast this program to you from Ratchamakan University of Technology, Peranakan. I will be bringing this program to you in two parts. For the first part, we will introduce a certain topic about being an American here living in Thailand. Could be about food, travel, culture, anything like that. We'll then take a break, and in the second part of the program, we'll get into more examples and more specifics. Okay, let's get to our program. Welcome everyone, and let me introduce myself. My name is Gary Gray. I am the host of this program, and I am an American English teacher here in Thailand. I have been living here for over 8 years, so I've been here long enough that I'm fairly familiar with the culture, the food. I've traveled quite a bit, many areas I've been to. I'm still learning new things every day. I still learn some things. So I'm not an expert, but I've been here long enough so that I think I can speak on these subjects, and that's why we're doing this program. And for today's episode, we are going to be talking about travel. Now, we've talked about travel a few times before, talking about some of my favorite places here in Thailand, things like that. Which places I like, which places I don't like, why I don't like some places. So we'll talk about that a little bit again here today, in case you've missed the previous episodes. But I'm really going to specifically talk about one place that I do like. And the reason I want to talk about that place is because it is not a typical place that I would like. Perhaps most Americans would. Most people who are tourists. Many tourist places to go here in Thailand. But because I live here, I live here because I like the culture, I like the Thai people. You go to a tourist area, there's a lot of foreigners there, a lot of Farangs. So those are not really my favorite places here in Thailand. Some of them can also be expensive. For example, I found Krabi to be very expensive when I went there. So I've been to a lot of them. Been to Krabi, been to Koh Samet, been to Koh Phi Phi, been to Pattaya, been to, I forget the name of the beach just south of Pattaya. I've been to Koh Larn. I was just there this year, in fact. And those are just the, those are just the beach areas I've been to. I've been to other places as well, which are kind of tourist places. For example, Chiang Mai is kind of a big tourist area, right? So that's kind of a tourist spot there. But again, I generally don't like the big tourist areas. The areas I tend to like are places that are just kind of normal Thailand. For example, you may remember in a previous episode we talked about Nang Khai being one of my favorite spots. So Nang Khai is one of my favorite spots. I've been to Kanchanaburi a couple of times. That is kind of a tourist area. Depends on where exactly you go, though. It's kind of, there are places you can stay which are out in the woods, on the river. It's really nice. So I don't really think of that as being a tourist area, even though there are spots where there are a lot of tourists. Same thing with the national parks. Actually, I've only been to one. I've been to Khao Yai. And again, you could say that's a tourist area because a lot of tourists go to the national parks, but it's wide open space. You're not usually going to be right there with someone except maybe your guide or something like that. So the national parks are also places I like to go. There are some other smaller cities. I enjoy going to small cities. I'm not a big fan of Chiang Mai. That's a big tourist city as well, which is another reason. But even the ones that aren't really big tourist cities, I'm still not a big fan of. For example, Udon Thani. I mean, there's still quite a few tourists there, but less than there are in Chiang Mai. Not a big fan of that. But there are some other smaller cities that I've been to that I really like. So those are the kind of places I like. And so I mention that because there is one kind of very touristy, popular place that I really did enjoy. And that is Koh Phi Phi. And so what we're going to do is in the second half of our program, we're going to talk more about why I like Koh Phi Phi. Now, before we get to that, let me talk about some of the other kind of beach areas and why they're not on my list, why I don't like them as much. So, for example, Pattaya. That's a real popular place to go, right? The thing I don't like there is that the beach, the main beach, there are places around Pattaya which are better. The beach south of Pattaya, whose name I forget, and I did not write in my notes here. But the beach south of Pattaya, I do like. I do like that area. But the main beach at Pattaya, I don't really like. It can be crowded. There can be a lot of trash there because some tourists are not very good. They throw their trash around. And the thing I kind of don't like the most is it seems hard to get in the water. I mean, I don't go swimming in the ocean much anyway, but still, I like to kind of go out a little bit. And so why is it hard to get in the water there? It's a beach. You go in the water. But if you've been to Pattaya, you know that they have a whole lot of boats tied up there. So there's ropes and boats and everything like that. It's not a very good beach, in my opinion. Krabi is another place which I didn't really like. First of all, the taxi drivers there just rob you. We have a saying in English, robbing someone blind. They rob you blind. They charged 1,000 baht to go from the airport to the hotel, and it was not a very long drive. It's not that close. If you've been to Krabi, you'll know that the airport there and the beach area, it's not that close, but it's not that far either. They charge 1,000 baht. The food is very expensive. And I also didn't find the beach there to be very nice. There's too many rocks and it's not very sandy. It's not a very nice beach. Again, just my opinion. I know many, many, many people love these beaches. I find the islands to be a little bit better. Koh Samet, Koh Larn, and Koh Phi Phi. I've been to those 3 islands so far. I would like to go to more. Those are the 3 I've been to. One island I really would like to go to is Got Si Chang. Not Got Chang. That's up near Pattaya. But Got Si Chang, which is much further south. Almost down to where the border is with Cambodia. It just looks very beautiful. So that's another one I'd like to go to. And it looks like there's not a lot of tourists there. But I've only been to 3 islands so far. Koh Larn, Koh Samet, and Koh Phi Phi. Koh Larn I was at recently. I did enjoy it. I can't say that any of the 3 islands I didn't like. All 3 islands I liked. But there's going to be one of them which is going to be our focus for today. So Koh Larn, one of the things I kind of didn't like about it so much, and this was my own fault for when I went there, is way too many tourists. But I booked my trip there during Chinese New Year. I did not even realize it was Chinese New Year when I booked it. And so, of course, we have a lot of Chinese tourists that come to Thailand. When better than during Chinese New Year. So, lots and lots of tourists. So that was a little bit annoying. Lots of people around. Too crowded. And Koh Samet, I would say I like that one better. There were still places where it was really crowded, like the main beach there. But I also went there during a holiday as well. So maybe I need to stop going during holidays because I went there during New Year's. So also crowded, but there were at least areas you could travel to, other parts of the island, which were quite quiet. And had some much quieter beaches and things like that. I was with my partner. We went to one area at like the furthest end of the island, and there's a few places to stay there. Not many. A few like small hotels. I'm not even sure you'd call them hotels. They're more like places where they have little bungalows and things like that to stay in. And they had like a little restaurant there, and it's right on the beach. So you go have your lunch right there on the beach, and it's really nice. And it's a more quiet part of the island. So I really did like Koh Samet. But my favorite one is Koh Phi. So in the second half of our program, we will discuss specifically why I like Koh Phi. All right, let's take our break now. Welcome back, everyone. All right, so we're talking about my favorite Thai tourist destination, Koh Phi. And again, when I talk about Thai tourist destinations, I'm talking about typical places that tourists, especially from other countries, but even Thai people, when they have a vacation, might go to. So we're not talking about my favorite Thai city or Thai cities. For example, I mentioned in the first half, Nong Khai is probably my favorite city. There's another city south of Nong Khai and south of Udon, small city, who for some reason I can't think of their name. But that was kind of my favorite city. But I don't go there very often because it's up in the same part of Thailand. It's up in Isan. And I actually have a condo in Nong Khai now, so I'm usually going up there. So I almost never go to that other city that I like. It's a small city south of Udon, and I should know the name. I've been there many times. I used to go all the time until I bought that condo in Nong Khai. Khon Kaen. Gosh, I was surprised I couldn't think of it. Khon Kaen. So Khon Kaen is another place I love. So we're not talking about places like that. Those aren't really tourist places. And Nong Khai gets some tourists, sure. There are a few hotels right along the Mekong River up there. There are several retirees, or I guess semi-retired, since they are working because they own restaurants there. So there are several semi-retired folks who own restaurants there, and they're usually Westerners, and so it's a comfortable place for Westerners to visit because if they're a little afraid of the Thai food, it's too spicy, whatever, you can go to a Western restaurant in Nong Khai. They exist. There aren't a lot of them, but they're there, and they're pretty good. As I said, I have a condo up there. Been there many, many times. So I'm very familiar with those restaurants. There's an Irish place there. Very nice. Very good food. Very friendly staff there. So that's not what we're talking about here, though. We're talking about tourist destinations like Phuket, Pattaya, a lot of the islands. And I have not been to all of the islands. As I mentioned in the first half, I've only been to 3 of them, Koh Samet, Koh Larn, and Koh Phi Phi. But I do think that those are three of the more popular ones, relatively. I'm sure there are others that are also quite popular. But I mentioned that those are some of the most popular ones because I feel like I've been to enough of them to have an opinion, because I think those are some of the more popular ones. So what we're talking about here is why I like Koh Phi Phi. Okay. And I've actually been there more than once. I haven't been there too many times. It's a little expensive for me to travel. I live here in Thailand. I'm working here in Thailand. So I'm basically getting a Thai salary. So, I'm not a Westerner making a salary that an American would make. So I don't come here with lots of money. So I don't travel too often now, except mostly up to my condo in Nong Khai. But I have been to Koh Phi Phi more than one time. I will say the first time I went was better. But that's no fault of the islands. That's just the situation. There were a lot of businesses that seemed to have been shut down because of COVID. Because COVID lasted so long and killed the travel industry for so long. That lots of businesses went out of business in Koh Phi Phi. So as you're walking down kind of the main streets, there'll be a lot of places where there used to be a restaurant here, there used to be a shop there, and a lot of them are shut down. So it was better the first time I went, but hopefully, with things kind of normal these days, I mean, COVID is still out there. We recently had a small little outbreak here in Thailand, which may still be going on, I'm not sure. But it's pretty much normal now. So hopefully those businesses will open back up and Koh Phi Phi will be back to normal very soon. In fact, it may already be. It's been over a year since I went there. And we're recording this in 2025. So it was back in 2024, maybe even late 2023. I don't remember exactly. Sometime around then, though, that I went to Koh Phi Phi. Okay. So what is it that I like about Koh Phi Phi? Because I told you I don't like tourist areas. Don't like them. Don't like them. So why do I like Koh Phi Phi? Okay, first of all, I find it to be fairly convenient. Now, it's not that convenient, obviously. You get a fly to Phuket, or you can drive there, but that's a long drive. So you get a fly to Phuket, then you get to take a van or a taxi or whatever to the pier, and then you get to go from the pier, take a boat over to Koh Phi Phi. It's kind of a pain. But I will tell you that it was more convenient than going to Koh Larn. Koh Larn, because of where it's located, you're probably going to take a bus if you're coming from Bangkok. Or even a taxi, although the taxi's going to be really expensive, all that distance. And if you take the bus, from the bus station to the pier, that's convenient. That's not bad. And then you take the boat. So it's not too bad. It's not too much different, but it's, the bus is just going to make it take longer. I mean, I know going to the airport is not short because you have your travel time to the airport. You got to get to the airport early, etc., etc., etc. But you still need to travel to the bus station as well. You want to get to the bus station a little early, maybe not as early as you're getting to an airport, but you still have all that same stuff, all that same hassle before you even start your trip. And then you've got the bus. So it's a lot longer trip. And I don't remember exactly about Koh Samet. I do remember it being a little more of a hassle. So I find Koh Phi Phi to be fairly convenient. Obviously, it's still not that convenient, but if we're talking about the islands, which islands to go to, it's fairly convenient. I also found most of the beaches to be better than most. There are some exceptions. There's a small island that you can take a boat to that's right off of Koh Phi Phi. The beaches there are terrible because there's too much coral. You can't really walk on them. You'll hurt your feet. But the beaches on Koh Phi Phi itself are mostly sandy. I think the shape of the island makes it so that there are more beaches as well because it's kind of long, so you have to go all the way around. Even though it's a small island, you have beaches almost all the way around. Almost. There are some areas on the, I want to say northeast side of the island. I'm not sure if that's right. I think it's the northeast side of the island, which are more rocky, and so there's not much beach there. But even there's a, as I recall, because I was staying there, that's where my hotel was. It's rocky, but once you get down to the water, even there's still a little bit of a beach. There's still beaches there. So the beaches I find there are better than most. Some beaches in Thailand might be a little more rocky or might have a lot of corals. It's one of the reasons why I wasn't a big fan of Krabi. It's not a very sandy beach, so it's not very comfortable to go walking on. The beaches in Koh Phi Phi are mostly sandy. They're very nice, beautiful beaches. So that's another one. They also have a spot there where there is a I don't know if it's an Islamic temple or what it is. I do remember it's something related to the Islamic faith, some sort of center there, but it's on the top of a hill. And it's a really nice hike if you want to get a little bit of exercise. It's tiring. It's way up a hill. I'm getting kind of old. It was tough for me. I don't like stairs. My knees are bad. I don't like stairs. And it's way up a hill. But it's beautiful. So it has beautiful views up there. Now, I will say that that's not necessarily something better about Koh Phi Phi than other islands. For example, at Koh Larn, they also have some pretty high hills there and some really nice views. But it's just another thing that was nice about Koh Phi Phi. All right, another item that I really like about Koh Phi Phi is the activities. The activities you can do there. And it seems like there's more there than at some of the other islands. For example, when I was at Koh Larn, I didn't really see any scuba places. I'm sure there must have been some. I'm sure you can go scuba diving in that water. There's got to be some. But there are quite a few at Koh Phi Phi. So they're easy to find. You want to go scuba diving, you can go scuba diving. Now, I admit that maybe not be a big deal because I don't really ever go scuba diving, but I have gone once, and it was at Koh Phi Phi, and it was fun. I enjoyed it. It was nice to have the opportunity, at least, to do that. So, scuba diving. There was also some boat tours, which are really nice to go around in. I mentioned the smaller islands, which are around there, and some of them you can go to. So there's a lot of different things to do there, which I like. The food variety there, I also really like. It's more international than some of the other islands that I've been to. Obviously, you can get kind of basic Western food if you even want Western food, but you can get basic Western food at almost any of these islands because they know there are a lot of tourists there. So they all have a variety of food. But at Koh Phi Phi, like in the town center area, I still remember this street with just restaurant after restaurant after restaurant, and they're all different kinds, very international. All different kinds of restaurants. So the food variety in Koh Phi Phi I find to be excellent. Another thing that's fun is kind of the entertainment along the beach. For example, first time I went there, we went someplace and we just sat around at on the beach and watched the fire twirlers, and smoking a hookah pipe, which is also something I never do. That's like the only time I've ever done it. But it was relaxing. It was fun. It was fun. And a lot of that entertainment does not exist on some of the other islands, or it's not as much of it. For example, we did see the fire twirlers at Koh Samet as well. So they do have it. There's just more of that at Koh Phi Phi. It seems like it's a more active with the entertainment. And even though you have all of that active, touristy type stuff, which I told you I don't like, really, it's also very peaceful in some areas. For example, the second time I went there, we were staying on the northeast side of the island. That's where I was trying to think if it was northeast. And we were in a bungalow, overlooked the ocean, overlooked the water. And very private area, very quiet area. Not much around there at all. In fact, it's actually difficult to get to the main part of Koh Phi Phi because there's not even a street that goes out there. You have to come into the main part of Koh Phi Phi, and you have to get one of the longboats to take you over to this part of the island to go to the hotel. I say hotel. It was bungalows. It was little small buildings for each couple, person, whatever. So very peaceful part of the island. And the island has several parts like that. Now, again, I did say that some of the other islands had places like that. Koh Samet did. I've been to that part of the island. Really nice. Koh Larn sort of does. I would say there's less of that along the beach areas. It's more the interior and the big hills where it can be kind of quiet in some of those areas. But I'm sure there's probably a few areas along the beach that are pretty quiet. I just think that Koh Phi Phi has more of that. So if you're looking for quiet, peaceful, even though Koh Phi Phi can be very busy if you're in like the town center area, you can find places there that are nice and quiet and peaceful. All right, so I think that's my list overall of the reasons I really liked Koh Phi Phi. So that is really my favorite tourist spot that I've been to in Thailand. There may be others that will surpass that I haven't been to. Like I said, I've only been to 3 of the islands. I know there are some other ones that are pretty popular as well. I will hopefully go to soon. But of all the places I've been to, for tourist spots, again, not my favorite places in Thailand overall, but for tourist spots, that is why I find Koh Phi Phi so interesting and fun. So that's why it's my favorite spot. Okay, so that's our program. Thank you for joining us today for An American in Thailand. And let me reach out to any young people out there and ask them to consider our wonderful university here at RMUTP, Ratchamakan University of Technology, Peranakan. All right, please stay with us and tune back in next week for another interesting episode. And please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you.